What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks. DJ and Buck with you. Buck, excited about this one, man. We got a chance to have a friend and a really an awesome guest on the show today. He is ESPN college football analyst Greg McElroy, really one of the best in the business. And someone we've been looking forward to chat with about all that's going on in the world of college football. So here's our conversation with Greg McElroy. Well, Greg, appreciate you, man. Appreciate you taking some time for us. I want to hit you up on some landscape questions here, just of how college football has changed from when we were all going through it to where we are today. And I was telling Bucky the other day, I said, man, people can argue. Some people say it's good. Some people can say it's bad. What we have to agree on, gosh, it is kind of entertaining. I mean, we have no idea what the heck's going to happen next.
You know, it's funny. I don't know. I'm sure you guys get the question all the time. It's like, how much would you have made in NIL? And I always tell them, I'm like, I really don't care. As much as that sounds crazy, because it'd be great to go into the NFL and or go into your professional life at the head start. It's amazing. But there was some type of purity about when we played, where everyone in the locker room was the same. There was no salary cap. There was no nothing. So you were naive when you got to the league, just how the world worked, frankly. Wait, hang on a second. I don't like that guy. He makes more than me. Why? You know what I mean? Like the league was just different in that way. So I think it's consolidated rosters. There's fewer holes. You get young in a hurry when you get hurt in some spots because rosters are thin and the parity across the board. It's like the NFL. There was a point in this season, I don't know if it held up, but there was a point in this season in which the margin of victory in the Southeastern Conference was actually tighter than that in the NFL. And it was like week 9 or 10. So it's crazy how it's changed, but it certainly has become a lot of fun.
I got to ask you this, because being a quarterback of a team that won a title, I just wonder, how do you feel like that impacts the team dynamic in terms of, like, people talk about the money, but getting the team on the same page, not only coach the player, but player the player, people not worrying about what everyone is in everyone's pocket.
I think that's why these coaches make as much as they do. You can tell me, because of the competitive landscape in the coaching world and Jimmy Sex and all sorts of stuff, these coaches are going through a stress level that you cannot imagine. And I'm telling you, you can talk to Lane Kiffin, you can talk to Mike Elko at Texas A&M, you can talk to any coach in the sport right now, and their biggest challenge is getting buy-in, genuine, authentic buy-in. And it's adjusting, and there was a point in which it was just an arms race. Everyone go get as much as you can from who, and this school's paying more than this school and all sorts of stuff. Now it's come back to the mean a little bit, and you're starting to see a little bit more uniformity when it comes to contracts. And a lot of the contracts with these guys are now signing are incentive-laden deals. So if the school goes and wins and has success, you get paid on the back end, which to me is genius. That's the way to do it, and I think that's where we're kind of heading. But they're in a little bit of, before anyone knew what they were doing in this world, it took a while for us to get there, but we're progressing in that direction. And I think it will be helpful with buy-in and with just culture within the locker room.
Yeah, I would think all coaches would agree on that. Like, hey, the money's fine, but let's make it incentive. Let's give it to guys once you've done something, instead of on the front door before you even got in here. One of the things I was curious about, having called games and been to practices and been around programs, curious if you've seen any of this shift. When we go back to the teams when we were scouting, where it was the Miami teams, the USC era, obviously, Coach Saban's era, we saw it in Oklahoma. These were the most physical practices, Greg. And I remember talking to all these coaches and being like, how do you guys bang like this? And like, we got 3 other 5-stars. If this guy, something happens, lo and behold, you don't want it, but man, we got another one we could roll in here. And I'm watching tape starting draft prep and going through this. And I'm like, I haven't seen a team where I'm like, oh my gosh, like the Georgia team of a couple years ago, where lines were coming on and off the field. It seems like that talent has been dispersed a little bit, has been spread around a little bit more. Have you seen a difference in the practice because of that?
It's funny that you asked that. We visited with a program. I won't say who, because I don't want to wear out the reputation of the head coach. But the defensive coordinator, they were missing tackles right and left. And the defensive coordinator's like, guys, he goes to the head coach. He goes, Coach, can we please thud in practice? We have to thud. Like, we don't need to tackle to the ground, but this whole tagging off stuff, like, our guys aren't in position. They think they are, because it's blown dead in the good on good periods. But we have to get 9-on-7 back in our practice plan. We have to do something to just kind of make sure that we're making the tackle. So they're now thudding. And in the last 4 weeks of the season, it's like, whoa, the defense, they're playing good. You know what I mean? So I think there's a lot of fear within the coaching staff, because you lose a guy now, you're dead. You're going with a freshman. or you're going with a guy that in some cases might be a walk-on that is in year 4 of his development. But it's a lot harder now because one guy being out is just, it completely changes what you are. I mean, you look at a team, Georgia, I think it's best. You guys have scouted and watched Georgia forever. I'm not sure there's a better roster on an annual basis. It's always elite. But you watch them against Georgia Tech, they lose their center, and they've been without some offensive linemen this year. They lose one guy. It's like the O-line doesn't know how to block anymore in one game. It's like, oh my, and I'm sure they'll get it right in the event in which he misses extra time. But in that game, in the Georgia Tech game specifically, it was like, this is not the Georgia offensive line that we've seen forever. So I think there is a fear there. And we've seen a lot of guys too be lost in practice this year. And it's unfortunate, but I think the coaches are now starting to realize, like, look, they're going to get hurt in games. They're going to get hurt in practice. We have to at least know that we can play at the physical level required to win games. So I think we're starting to see a bit of a reversion after we saw a lot of tagging off in the last few years practice wise.
Yeah, it's funny that you said that because hearing Kirby talk about physicality and toughness all the time when it comes to Georgia, I'm just so used to them talking about Bloody Tuesday and the way they get after it. And I think it has to be that. One thing I want to ask you is because Sark came out and talked about like the rankings and those things. And one of the things that we love about college football is those non-conference matchups that are good on good early to see where you are. But when you don't get rewarded in the rankings for playing a tough schedule, how much is that going to impact what we, the viewer, loves is seeing these competitive matchups in September?
Well, I think there's going to be an adjustment there, and I think there needs to be. And I've had conversations with higher ups in college football. I was like, this is a very easy solution. We want those games. It's good for television, which we're all for. Most of us more than others. It's good for the NFL. It's good for scouting. I think it's also good for just figuring out, all right, which conference can do what. I mean, it's good for a lot of things. What I suggest and what I've told people that are in places that could maybe make adjustments is when we look at non-conference games, you're playing Texas against Ohio State. So fast forward to the end of the year, Ohio State's record's 12-0. Texas's record is 9-3. Correct. What I would suggest is that we view Ohio State's record as 12.5-0. We view Texas's record as 9-2. And we remove that game. So you can only get credit for that game, but you don't get penalized for that game. Does that make sense? There's only incentive to play, and it's not going to necessarily be held against you. So, for example, the same can be said for Alabama. Alabama, they're sitting there 10-2. Well, they lost to Florida State week 1. Big, high-profile game. Well, now they're 10-1, and Florida State, on the other hand, they would get a game and a half. So it'd be kind of like in the NFL world, a division win is really worth 1.5 games as opposed to a conference win, which is about 1.25 against a non-conference win on an AFC team playing an NFC team. That's basically just one game. So I think there's a way to weight the games a little heavier so that we still incentivize those games getting played, but it won't be held against you at the end of the day when looking at your overall schedule. Yeah,
and then like the cynic will say, and don't lose to Florida. Would be like
100%.
The cynic's answer. And it's because I was looking at it going, well, USC is a 3-loss team. If they don't go play Notre Dame out of conference, they're in the same boat. They got 2 losses. And then the answer would be, well, you can't lose to Illinois. You can't go on the road and lose to Illinois. So,
and I think but you could also say, like a team like Indiana, you don't get any credit for your non-conference wins.
Yeah,
because they
didn't play anybody.
Kennesaw, they didn't play anybody, which is fine. We should evaluate them through a lens of they're 9-0. That's what they are. Whereas Ohio State, all right, they're 9-0 against their conference, but they also get that 10.5 wins because they won that non-conference game. So I think there's a way of measuring it and adjusting it. And by the way, if Texas is 9-2, SC's 9-2. Bam is 10-1. We look at these other teams that played games. Well, Michigan played against Oklahoma. Oklahoma then would get a win. Michigan wouldn't. So that's another 3-loss team that might be in the mix. But would it even be enough to crack the argument? Maybe not. Maybe so. But I think that's a way of kind of fixing it and still encouraging teams to play those games, but not necessarily killing them for losing them.
Yeah, it's a challenge trying to figure that thing out. I think the best way to say it is just go win your conference. Even get if you're in the Big Ten and the SEC, just get to the conference game. Be one of those 2 teams. Get in the conference championship game. You're going to be in the tournament here once we get there. Is there a player you've seen this year? Maybe not the the obvious one or whatever, but there was a player where you left the stadium. You're like, gosh, I thought this guy was good on tape, but seeing him live and in person, it's a different feel, and it's like this is a much better player than I thought.
Yeah, the guy that I've told all the scouts about that I've talked to is Ruben Bain at Miami.
Yeah.
And is he your prototypical, like, where does he fit?
He's not long.
Perfect world.
Yeah.
No, he's kind of sawed off, but he plays with such power and he's got enough twitch to where I think he can still be a very capable edge defender. I don't think he's ever going to be a guy in the NFL that has 20 sacks. Like, that's not him. But he's a guy in the NFL that's going to have 8.5 sacks, and he's going to be a problem every single week, and we'll play him inside and out. I just think Ruben Bain, if you watch him on production and violence, there's very few people, I think, that play better than him. Now, does it translate? I think it does. But it's not going to be the same flash that you would anticipate for a guy that's coming off of the top 5 of the picks.
I got to hit you on this because I feel like this is going to hit close to home. Just give me your take on Ty Simpson and what you've seen from him this year as a starter at Alabama.
I was having a conversation with the defensive coordinator, and he said, go watch Burrow's first year as a starter, and then go watch his second year as a starter. Because while Ty, yes, 4th year in the program, 4 years, these are only he's making his 13th start on Saturday. So it's still a pretty small sample size of where he can grow. I think he's learning every week. But there was a throw, I think it was the South Carolina game. I was talking to an NFL quarterback coach that had a bye week and came to watch him. It was against Oklahoma, so it's a bad week to go. But he threw a ball in the air that was 68 yards in the air against South Carolina, I believe. And it was like, whoa, I didn't know he had that. I didn't know he had that type of juice. The ball, I think, jumps off his hand better than you realize. I think his ball placement can continue to improve. There was a point early in the year where he was anticipating throws across the middle. Like, I always watch guys as they translate to the next level. How comfortable are they working between the hashes? How comfortable are they working, a yard or two outside the hashes? Because that's where the trouble is. Mm-hmm. And in the league, like, everyone makes the downfield throws on the outside the numbers. I can live with that. The back shoulder throws, all that stuff. Everyone's got that. But who can challenge the middle and thread the needle in the windows? And I feel like he was doing it better than anybody, the way he was layering balls over defenders and things like that. So I love him. Mm-hmm. In a perfect world for his development long term, I think would be for him to come back and to have one more year playing college football, because this is another thing too about Ty that I appreciate. A lot of the guys that come out after 13, 14, 15 starts, they've never experienced adversity.
No,
it was just smooth sailing and ride their way right into the pros and they'll be fine. Ty has gotten hit and he has weathered the storm. And I think at times he has elevated his team and has been clutch too. 4th down execution's been imperative. I look at 4th down and 8 throw that he made, sliding to his left against Missouri man coverage, recognized it, anticipated it, put it in a bucket 22 yards downfield that was tight. I think he's a franchise quarterback. I really do. I just think it would be beneficial for him to have another year, or if he gets to the pros, have a year where he's learning from a guy that's kind of showing him how to be a pro. And then in year 2, he takes over and becomes the guy.
I know we're all in the same boat where you get coaches calling you and asking you, hey, we're trying to figure out whether this guy should go, whether he shouldn't. What do you think? What are the expectations of where he would get picked, how successful he would be? I don't think it's ever been easier to make a case for a kid to come back to school. Like, when you just look at the data and you look at and you're up against it. If you haven't started a lot of ball games, it's just that's not a great track record. The more you play, it seems to be the more beneficial. Because even when you were playing the NFL, Greg, whatever developmental time they could put into you, it's even less now of what they can put into these guys if they're not playing. So, and now on top of that, the thing was, well, gosh, I don't want to turn down the money. There's money waiting for me. Well, now we give you a big chunk of money at these big schools now. Like, it seems like it should be an easy sell for a guy like Ty Simpson to me, of like, hey, man, this is only going to help you. You come back, you're going to play more. We're going to take care of you financially, maybe go win a national championship, but it's going to make you a better professional because we can develop you here where you're not going to get that same development in the NFL right now.
No, my first year in the league was 11, and that was off the lockout when they got rid of two-a-days and basically killed the development of the young quarterback that needed it. Mm-hmm. And it was all in an effort for the guys that were on the NFLPA at that time to extend their career, which I totally don't blame them, right? Hey, less practices, less contact. I would do the same thing if I were in year 9. But I was a rookie, and I needed those reps and wanted those reps desperately. And I agree with you completely. I think there's no better way to improve than to actually play. And especially for a guy at quarterback that, ball security. nuance, moving in the pocket, seeing things, making adjustments pre-snap, identifying a protection, identifying and sliding your protection to save yourself, understanding, hey, I got to get the ball out. It's hot. I can't block them all here. Seeing your blitz adjustments and cover zero to take advantage of plays. I mean, I think that all that stuff, and it'd be one thing if you're running gimmicky offense that doesn't translate.
Yeah.
If you're in an offense that does translate, a la an Oregon or an Alabama and an Ohio State, which I think is an offense that now translates with how they've made some tweaks. I think there's a handful of offenses that are still little gimmicky. I think you guys know the ones, but where they're basically like, all right, throw to this guy, throw it to your X, throw it to your Y. I would have loved to have played in one. Unfortunately, I didn't. But I
where
think
the splits are wide enough where the coach can shake your hand on the sideline before the ball snap.
Shake your hand, poke you in the ear. Yeah, I mean the ones that those are not real. Those don't translate quite as well. So I think if you're an offense that translates, I think it makes a lot of sense to come back and play. But then again, I also get it. Everyone's dream is to be a top 5 pick, and there are those horror stories, if you will, if you want to call them that. Carson Beck's an example where Carson Beck was a top 5 pick. Was he ever? I don't know. And then he comes back, doesn't have a great year, hurts his elbow, and then starts from the ground and has now, I think, worked his way back up a little bit in the eyes of many. So there are horror stories there too, but I always think coming back and playing is the way I'd lean. If I were on the bubble of being a top 15 pick, I'd rather be a top 5 pick and come back the next year and establish a legacy in college.
I know you got to run. I'm going to Buck. I know he's got to catch a flight here.
Go ahead.
Last thing, then we'll get you out of here. Are we? Tell me you're not a bring food on the plane guy, are you?
No, that's disgusting.
Yeah.
No.
Well, we were not going to air this episode. There's nothing worse, man. There's nothing. You want to hear a true story real quick? So I'm on a plane and some person sits down next to me and then they're eating a real smelly burrito. So I tweet out, I kid you not, I tweet out like the person next to me is just gross. It smells, So anyways, I'm sitting there halfway through the flight. She goes, are you Daniel Jeremiah? And I go, oh no. I went to high school. I went to high school with the person. What are the odds? Is that the worst?
That is impossible.
And so I'm talking to her why I'm trying to delete a tweet so that nobody that she knows sees this thing. I mean, it's an all-time jerk move on my part.
Yeah.
When's your next reunion? When is your next reunion? Because that is going up on where are they now? Daniel Jeremiah sending a tweet ridiculing his high school friend. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Yeah, because they're just like, oh, this guy, this guy's a radio color commentator, really thinks he's made it in life. What a jerk.
I will say this though. If you were to bring food on the plane, there are certain food items that are appropriate. A burrito, frankly, inappropriate food item to bring on the plane.
Thank you.
That's an aggressive play.
Any
depending
seafood,
on the length of the flight.
No.
Seafood.
Yeah.
What airport's serving it to go?
Oh yeah. They have like a Phillips. There's a Phillips in
go
Chicago. Yeah. You go in there, people will get it to go. Yeah. I've been on the plane where people have busted out some salmon next to me.
Oh, that
rough.
Well,
I wish you best of luck on your flight, Greg. I hope you have nothing but crackers next to you on this flight.
Yeah, crackers and those little tasty bars, bistro bars or whatever they're called. So appreciate you guys. Enjoy the show. Always enjoy listening to you guys.
You're the best, man. We'll see you later. There he goes, Greg McElroy, ESPN analyst, college football analyst, who does a great job. Calling games. It's a lot harder than you think, by the way, to call those games, Buck. And someone who I think when you watch it, I always go, can you explain it? Can you make you smarter? And he does both those things.
Yeah, look, he's so good at what he's done. He's been able to take his career and what he's been able to learn as a college quarterback, as a pro quarterback, and really explain it. I love watching his telecast and even his own podcast. He's really good at what he does.
Yeah, really nice job. All right, that was a fun conversation. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time right here on Move the Sticks.